I'm Merritt Ansa, and you're listening to the Devoted Dreamers podcast, the podcast for dreamers, creators, and makers who are eager to wake up in the morning with the confidence to say, this is who God made me, and this is the dream He's given me. If you have a dream on your heart, but you're confused about how to move forward, or you have fear, anxiety, and you worry that you're not enough, you're halted by comparison because somebody else is already doing your dream, or you're struggling to believe there is anything God could ever use you for. Welcome to Season 7. You're about to receive the encouragement you need to pursue that dream. Through the stories of women just like you who have faced their fears, fought back lies, taken bold steps, and are still in the middle of it. Stick around and you will be emboldened to take the next step. Grow in confidence in your identity in Christ, become sure of His faithfulness in your life, and be inspired by the good He will fuel through you in the world. Because, sister, the victory is already yours. Hey dreamers, welcome back to another incredible conversation on the Devoted Dreamers podcast. But before we jump into that, I just read the sweetest review I want to share with you. She says, when there's so much hustling in the world of entrepreneurs, Merritt's podcast is always a breath of fresh air. She has such a grounded, authentic presence, and I always love the guests she brings on the show. I binged this show when I first discovered it at least a year ago, and now I'm a devoted listener and dreamer. Thanks for continuing to show up and share your voices, Merritt. That's from Natalie Arndt. Thank you, Natalie. Thanks so much, too, for being a guest and coming on the show for my very first strategy session back in episode 140. If you didn't catch that one, you definitely need to. And if you've never left a review, let me tell you, it is so encouraging to hear this kind of feedback from you. Your input spurs me on to continue doing this work, but more importantly, it encourages other women who need these conversations in their earbuds as well. So head on over to iTunes, make your review and your rating there. And if you don't have an iPhone or an iPad, just pull up iTunes on your computer, click on rate and review, and go from there. In fact, the last time I looked, I had 98 ratings. I think like 60 some reviews, but 98 ratings. So, hop on in there and you maybe could be number 100. And if you're loving this podcast, I want to invite you to come on over to my Patreon page where you can hear more of the heart behind why I'm doing what I'm doing with Devoted Dreamers and to get involved as a patron of the show. It's quick and easy to sign up for a monthly or one-time contribution to support the podcast. You can just visit patreon.com/Devoted Dreamers podcast. So I love the dependence on the Lord that my new friend, Rachel Awtrey, shares in this episode. We get into some of the spiritual battles and the spiritual side of what it looks like to pursue a dream and trust in the Lord, and to remind yourself of the daily battle we are in with the enemy and the voices that want to betray and sabotage our dreams. But she and I also get into some really practical aspects of dreaming and what it takes to really do a thing. In fact, you might listen for any of the following that could be helpful for you in your process. The discipline it takes to push through the days when your dream isn't so dreamy. She talks about how she financed her dream, about creating systems for the steps involved, and freeing up time for the one thing you can't freelance or outsource, and that's your time with the Lord and your prayer over your dream. And then her advice about starting out with a board of advisors. So much good stuff for a dreamer who is just getting started, or even if you're already along the way. So let's get to it. Hey, Devoted Dreamers. It is so fun to be back with you today, and I am looking forward so much to this conversation. I'm excited to introduce you to Rachel Awtrey. She is the host of the Behind the Bliss podcast, and she's in Birmingham, Alabama. And some things that you need to know about her: she just has this heartbeat to create a space for women to share their stories. And so she and I are already hitting it off right away. but really just kind of this reality of what life is like behind the bliss, like behind the facade of what we see, whether on social media or even in real life, but just to get past all of that and to get real and honest and vulnerable and to be with one another, our most real selves. And so there's so much more about Rachel, but I want you to hear it from her. So, hey, Rachel, welcome to the Devoted Dreamers podcast.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored to be here.
Oh, it's super fun. And I just discovered, I didn't know this about you or your husband, but last night I was watching your stories, how he's a pilot. And you guys, I think, were out in some field and he was like piloting like a,
oh, yeah.
What was it? Like
a remote control airplane.
Yeah. So
yes.
He's like a real pilot, but you guys were out playing last night. That was really fun.
Yeah, he's a real pilot. And then he flies remote control airplanes when he gets bored or the weather's too bad to fly the real thing. So I love him. He's such a boy. I was like, what do you want for Christmas? He said, just really want a remote control airplane. And I was like, you are so precious. I will get you one.
Sweet man. So that was your gift to him?
Actually, no. Other people covered that. So I was able to spend money on the things we needed, like shoes and jeans,
Sweet.
On a budget.
Always, right? Yeah, you're a podcaster.
Yes. Yeah, I was about to say, babe, we're not glamorous. Come on.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, let's dig right into it. I would love to have you share, like, what is the dream God has put on your heart? What has he made you for? What are you doing with that?
Yeah. Wow. All really fun, big questions. I feel like I have so many dreams on my heart that I had to almost rally it in, like rein it in, figure out what is it exactly that the season would have me called to, what resources do I have, and what do I feel like are the gifts and the talents that he's trying to cultivate in me. And so all of this kind of spearhead into this moment about a year and a half ago where one of my very best friends called me and she said, hey, I think maybe we should start a podcast. And it made sense in that time because her husband was deployed and my husband had a really fun but odd job working at a guest ranch building ropes courses, was just gone a lot. And so I, out of this like loneliness and boredom, I figured, let me pray about it. And to be honest, Mary, I had never really listened to podcasts other than crime podcasts. And so when she asked me, I was like, I don't know anyone's been murdered. I don't know what to talk about.
That's so
like,
funny.
Rachel. Yeah, she's like, there's so many other podcasts besides crime. And so, I don't know, I just kind of started praying about it and figured that, yes, like this could be a really cool thing. What a neat platform that we have access to share stories, to share revelation, to be able to declare truth online, with strangers. I don't know, this was so cool. And this big idea that felt bigger than me. And so for some reason, because it felt bigger than me, I just felt safe to dream in that space. And so fast forward, I said yes, and we started this podcast called Behind the Bliss and have really tried to foster a community of women that are hungry to learn, but then also really just need to feel met where they are, whether that's in motherhood or newlywed seasons or college, maybe retirement or empty nesting. Everything. We just feel like we have women that are hungry just to be known and to be heard. And so we bring women on the show every week, kind of like an interview-based podcast where we have people share from struggles with addiction to loneliness, depression, body image issues. We try to cover the whole board because chances are there's someone that's dealing with one of the, several topics we've dealt with. So I'm honored to show up in this space, and my big dream is to take this from online to offline in some way. So I'm praying through what that looks like now. And we've done events, which has been so fun. So something like that in the future would be a blast to continue to do that in whatever the way the Lord has us. But my big dream, I think, just to put it all with a little bow on top, would be to love women wherever they're at, which I think is easier these days than it ever has been before, because we're able to reach people in their bedrooms via online. We're able to reach them in their cars while they're doing dishes. You can be in someone's darkest season on one of the darkest days completely by happenstance, like divine circumstance, because of this online world of podcasting. So my heart really is just to reach people that maybe I would have never been invited to reach before.
Yeah. Isn't that so interesting? That,
Yeah.
I mean, 25 years ago, no way.
No way.
Like
No
you would have,
how.
yeah, you would have driven somewhere or gotten on a plane or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah. That's
You get to
awesome.
share the good news every day online with whatever resource, whether it's social
Yeah.
media or creating something as extravagant as this. I
Yeah.
just, what a blessing. And I didn't want to miss that opportunity of obedience.
Yeah. So what kind of feedback have you gotten from the listeners and people that gather where you're sharing?
So this may seem really weird, but I love in my free time when I feel really down or maybe not motivated or have those moments, it's easy to agree with enemy, like no one listens, this isn't working. I love to read through our reviews and just kind of glance at the things that people are saying. I have a folder in our Gmail inbox that says when you feel low, and it's all these people that have messaged in or emailed in like you have no idea how much I needed to hear this, or I've never read that scripture before and now I'm like stuck in that book. And I've gotten, I think, the coolest types of reviews and feedback. But I think the coolest part of it all is that the things that I read are, I'm trying to figure out how to even explain this. The things that people have the most great things to say are the moments that I don't remember saying them. And so
Yeah.
it's so neat to give the Holy Spirit credit to be like, I don't remember that ever coming out of my mouth. And then I go back and listen to the episode. I'm like, sure enough, I said it. I don't remember how, but it's so neat to remember it's not about Rachel. This is not the Rachel show. And that people are being touched by moments that I don't even remember that not are insignificant to me by any means, because they are, but in those moments that I kind of take myself out of the equation are the moments that people respond to the most. So that feedback has been more of a blessing to me, I think, than anyone else.
Yeah. And isn't that so interesting? Like in contrast with the whole like feedback you get online in terms of numbers and likes and stats. And, it's like all that stuff is super empty and,
Sure.
is
Yeah.
never really going to lift you up the way that you hope.
Yeah. Yeah.
But to say, oh, the Holy Spirit did something in that person's life because of my obedience, like, that's really sweet.
And I think I need it too, because what you and I both are doing is really vulnerable and transparent. And sometimes I joke, I'm like, I feel like I'm booty naked running across a 4-lane highway. Like I feel like I am exposing every inch of myself and my soul to people that I don't know. And to be honest, sometimes I don't even know if I could trust with this information, but I do it because I feel called to it. And so when people do respond with a love nudge, it's almost like a sweet God wink of like, I know that was hard, Rachel. I know that was, you were sweating while you said it, but thank you so much for, being obedient and saying what I really needed you to say to the world, to whoever stumbles across it. That I think is, it's my little blessing of obedience, I think.
Yeah, totally. Well, and you've talked a little bit about kind of the challenge of that, but is there anything like fear wise that you struggle with today that's kind of still, you got to fight back those lies?
Yeah. Oh gosh, don't we all? I think, my biggest fear today that I'm just currently praying through is the fear of the unknown. And I have such a hard time like not knowing where I'm going. And I think, for example, I need to know like if we're going on a date and it's a surprise, I get anxious. I'm like, I need to know, am I dressed for the occasion? And like, if something were to happen, would people know where we're going to be? My mind just wanders. And I think just fearing the unknown, of course, then is applied to business and ministry and to dreams. If you're like, you don't know what your destination is, you just know what route you're taking at the moment. And I have learned to have to be okay with that. And really have learned that not knowing where you're heading, in the best way possible. Like, of course, you should, have some sort of plan, but I don't want people to hear, just throw it all to the wind.
Just
but
wing it always.
Yeah, just wing it. And no. Definitely have a plan and pray about your plan. But the Lord ordains our steps, meaning that when He directs our calling, that's the safest place to be. And where the world would tell you, you should know, what's your 5-year plan? When are you having kids? Like, ask these questions, anticipating answers. It puts this pressure on you to then know it. And And then you get some kind of frightfulness when you don't know the answers or you don't know what to say and are speechless. But really, I think that's what the Lord calls us to. In those moments where I don't know what to say or I don't know what the hecky I'm doing, which to be honest is every day of something or another, I think it's so sweet and precious because it forces me to not lean on my own understandings and in all of my ways acknowledge him because he leads my path straight. And when Rachel knows all the answers and I know my next 5 steps and how to get from point A to point B and can put something easily in a GPS, it's easy to rely on myself and to make myself my own God. And then the Lord's voice is a lot harder for me to hear because I'm not having desperately to rely on it. So fearing the unknown is my answer. I hate not knowing what's next, but that's what the season looks like with personal and professional life. And I think it's a sweet little reminder that it's just not about me.
Yeah. So is there something practical that you do either like quietly, internally or externally to get through those moments of fearing the unknown and, forgetting that God leads our steps and that he's got a plan? Like, what do you do when that comes?
Great question. So, Jess Connolly, she's an amazing author and speaker and writer. And I listened to one of her episodes on the Happy Hour about 2 years ago before I ever had a podcast, before I even knew what life was going to look like today. But she talked with Jamie Ivey about doing this thing in her mirror where sometimes she has to just throw her hands up, look at herself in the mirror and say, I take myself out of the running to be fill in the blank. And so I have to, in those moments of fearing the unknown, it's a lot of times because I'm like, what are people going to think of me? What if I fail? What if I mess up? What if I skip a step? What if I, what if I'm a fraud? I mean, I ask these questions all the time and I have to look in the mirror, throw my hands up and say, I take myself out of the running to be the best podcaster, to be the best, to be known, to want to be known by people. It's just not about that. Mm-hmm. So that's something physically I do thanks to Jess. But I also just with our lifestyle, and you kind of said something about it, but my husband is in the military and has been for a while, but our life recently has taken a fun, different path where he's decided he wants to be a pilot for the military. And I think just where the world is and what the world is and what we've been promised it'll always be, it just makes me fear the unknown even more. Mm-hmm. And so I've been memorizing Psalm 91, which was actually my one of my resolutions for 2019, but here we are, and I only have half of it memorized. So, but I've tried to memorize through Psalm 91, and specifically the last part where it says, because he loves me, I will rescue him and I will protect him, for he acknowledges my name, says the Lord. He will call upon me, or she will call upon me, and I will answer her. I'll be with her in trouble. I'll deliver her and honor her. And with long life, I'll satisfy her and show her my salvation. So I just have to keep reminding myself, no, he sees me. He's protecting me. He's won't even let me dash my foot against a stone when I acknowledge and call upon his name. And so it's between using this really awesome book that we've been given access to as a sword to fight, but then also personally, physically, I have to do something to declare war on these thoughts and fears of raising my hand and talking to myself. Sounds cray-cray, but really either wearing a t-shirt that says, freedom, to wearing a baseball cap with, some sort of, emblem on it to be like, I have peace beyond understanding, or whatever it looks like. I think doing something physical, wearing something physical, saying something out loud, I think there's a lot in that warfare too.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I love what you said. This is a battle, and we are called to fight, not just sit by and let ourselves be destroyed.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not about maintaining. There's a whole army that we don't even know to the physical eye how big it is, that the Lord is fighting on our behalf every day. And he just wants us to join us in that, because it's not about showing up and making it, winging it. It's about realizing that there's a whole new spiritual level that's trying to keep you from your potential. And I don't know, that fires me up. So in those moments I get afraid, I'm like, shoot, it's exactly what the enemy wants me to feel. Totally. So I have to do these things? So that's a good question for practically, how do I overcome? Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. I love it. Well, I'd love to hear just along the way. You told me earlier you've been podcasting since 2018.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say is the best decision that you have made?
So I'm a 3 on the Enneagram,
Yeah.
meaning I'm an achiever, I'm a go-getter, a mountain mover, or I try to be at least. And so when people ask these questions, I have to be honest, Mary, it's so easy for me to think of all the times I've come short. So hold on, let me think of something I'm glad I did. There are a lot of them though. I really am glad that I did it anyways. Sounds so cliche. I'm glad that I stuck through it. I think there's been just a lot of ups and downs and questions and pauses and moments when I just shouldn't have happened, or I don't know. I lost any kind of favor for this thing because I just am no longer desiring to do this today or this week or whatever. And I have to then, kind of like I was saying before, step in the gap for people that are needing to hear this message, whatever it is that week or that topic, and realize that I have got to show up for my sisters because someone showed up for me. And that's how I feel like I have this relationship with Jesus, or, was able to have that breakthrough last week, was because someone spoke a word to me or encouraged me. And so I'm just grateful and really proud, if I can say that, of just sometimes the discipline that I've been able to have. So where people would say it's fun and chasing your dream is, a blast, and when it comes true, it's even more fun. It's that's just not the case. And it takes a lot of discipline to create the desire sometimes. And so in those moments and in the seasons where it's zero desire, 100% discipline, I'm just really proud that I dug my heels in and just did the work, because it makes the desire come alive, and it also makes those moments of breakthrough for others, or even honestly myself, that much more worth it when I can laugh and be like, I almost didn't do this. I almost did it. I almost canceled this interview today because that's what my emotions were telling me to do, but I had to deny it and show up for myself and other people through discipline. So
yeah, and I think
that's not too cliche.
No,
that's what I think.
I think that's super helpful because, like you just said, when we watch somebody else pursuing a dream, we kind of fantasize about what that might be like. But when it's us having to buckle down, do the hard work, if you're like me and a little bit behind all the time, staying up till 2 a.m. to finish an episode right before it's going to launch, it's hard. And there are some moments where you kind of might want to quit whatever your dream is. I mean, podcasting or whatever it might be. And so I think you're right. And I'm doing a little bit of work in the first chapter of James right now. And that, perseverance builds character and character builds hope, and hope does not disappoint. That verse came to my mind as you were talking. And if we'd always quit when it was hard or it wasn't the way that we hoped it would be, think about what we would miss out on. So,
if Paul in the Bible was stuck in jail and he was like, oh, this is so hard, I hate my life. We wouldn't have so many different books of the Bible to read through and be encouraged by. And so, I mean, gosh, can't wait to talk to him when I get to heaven. But I would say if we could just even take him as an example where he still found reasons to be grateful and for gratitude and discipline, even when he was literally stuck in captivity, I think we should be able to do the same with all of the resources and freedom that we have here. So
for sure,
I think go Paul.
Right. I know, what a great encouragement and mentor we have in him. All the Paul. Well, talk about is there anything currently in your dream that feels unresolved or unfinished, or you're kind of asking God to answer something and you just haven't heard that answer yet?
Yeah. I mean, do you want to know specifically what they are? I'm like, I'm happy to share. I'm just,
I want to know what you feel comfortable sharing. So
yeah. I think that, again, that's a really amazing yet vulnerable place to be, where you have, like I do, so many different dreams and ideas and ways that you would really love to move forward. But I've just learned the hard way, and I'm sure I'll learn it again, but I don't want to take a step if he hasn't ordained it or anointed it. And so I have a lot of dreams that I'm praying through that I think would be really cool. And I'm trying to pray now through, do I want to do them and execute because it would be really cool? Or do I want to execute because it's something that I truly do see is for me and has my name on it? I heard someone say this one time, it was so helpful. It said, every answer or decision that you make will impact someone else. And if I say yes to something, I might be taking away someone else's yes. Or if it wasn't my yes. And if I say no to something out of obedience, then I've then freed up someone else to be obedient in that. And so I have to remember also that all the dreams that I have are really, really neat, but they might not all be for me. They might just be a dream put on my heart that I could be praying into for someone else that I think has been called to it or is more suited for it or whatever. But also then there's the tension where we've been called, that he gives us the desires of our heart. And when I think through that, I think not that he gives us everything that, we want, because that doesn't happen all the time, but he's the one that orchestrates those desires in our hearts. He's the one that even planted them there in the first place. So then I'm in between this tension, and that's what I'm praying through right now is, do I want this because I want it and I'm a big dreamer and a 3 on the Enneagram, or do I want this because it's a desire that's been placed within my heart that might show fruit later on? So, I think with a podcast, you get this, like, it's so 2-dimensional sometimes, and people hear your voice and people never, or sometimes don't see your face, and you work behind a microphone, and although you're talking to someone, I'm the only one in my room right now, and it just feels real lonely and super rigged. And so when you think, and I start dreaming, I'm like, I want to do something in life with women, can hug them, like we can laugh together in community where 2 or more are gathered in my name. There I am also, like that. I want that kind of community and show. And I want to bring this online to offline as much as possible. So I'm kind of praying through what that would look like. Cause again, there's so many routes you could take with that. And we've tried some of them before. We've done some events that have been so cool and neat. They were kind of the pilots to see if this would even work or if they would be enjoyable. And they were so much fun. So I think we're trying to just fine tune it and see what it would look like to buckle down and make our list of things we would do differently and the same. And also just want to make sure we're moving forward with excellence and not just because we can. So, a lot that I'm praying through. A lot. I'm a dreamer. I dream big. My husband is a 9 on the Enneagram.
Mine
and
too.
someone before has said like a 9 and a 3 can be so beautiful, but also like so destructive, because we're like the balloon on a string, where I'm the balloon and I'm always like dreaming. And then he's the string where he brings me back down so I don't float away,
Right.
So
yeah,
that's kind of what we do. And I could dream forever. And I love helping other people's with theirs too, but have to realize, like, if I commit to one dream, I might be taking away someone else's. And if I don't, out of fear, or I'm paralyzed, then I think then too I miss out on a really neat opportunity for myself. So dream on, but also
find balance.
Find balance. Yes.
Well, and I kind of want to ask you a question that I haven't really prepared you for. So
no, go for it.
As you're talking about all of this stuff and you're kind of heading into, I think, like 2 years of podcasting, and you've done some events, and you have a lot kind of invested in this. Mm-hmm. And it's almost like I can hear that woman who's listening saying, like, how do you finance this deal? Like how do
Yeah.
I do my dream when I don't know where the money is going to come from and,
Mm-hmm.
or how, like what the end game is going to be. So are you willing to talk with us a little bit about that? Like
Yeah,
what you've invested in this and maybe some tips and tricks from a
sure.
financial perspective?
Yeah. So I will say, just to disclose, 100% of my income is not behind the bliss. There's a lot of, I just want to like release some pressure here.
Real talk.
Like when I say I work on this 8 to 5, I do. But there's a lot of things from 5 to 8 p.m. I also work on, so to even be able to have the room and the flexibility to do this. So I would say, I would clarify a few things. One, every dream might not be your full time. So it's okay if your dream is not a 9 to 6, 8 to 5, so be it. If your dream is to crochet, you crochet till your fingers turn off. But if you have to have a full-time or part-time job also, that's fine. Like, what a blessing that you could do both. So I don't want people to hear me when I talk about this and think that it means like quit your job and start your dream, because we finance the whole first, honestly, year on our own. If you break it down, it takes around $200 an episode roughly to produce a podcast every week. Between your subscriptions, the time you're taking, any kind of outsourcing you do with editing, to your equipment. I mean, it's expensive.
Yeah.
And we completely financed it ourselves for the first year. And then after that, kind of came to a realization of people are wanting to support us. We just are going to have to figure out a way where they can come in line with our vision, and we can either offer them something like a service or a good, or they can just help us because they want to see this continue. And so we opened up the doors for people to become patrons, which are like donors. I have to say that quiet because the IRS, they're a real thing. So like we can't technically say donors, but
right.
They're like our people that keep us afloat. And so we offer them exclusive episodes, uncut, unedited episodes if it runs long. Like we try to give them more than they had asked for because they're contributing something to this to make it alive. So we have patrons, and then we have merchandise. So when we did these live shows, we really wanted to have something fun people could take away. So we have some shirts and some cute tees. I mean, there can be a lot of different avenues of income for this that have now funded what is Behind the Bliss. And so I would say to someone, get creative. Like it doesn't have to be solely on ads. Like ads is probably only 15% of our revenue right now. It doesn't have to be merchandise. It doesn't have to be events. I just think that you need to figure out what your audience looks like, whether it's via podcasting or selling something on Etsy or whatever, and figure out, what is it that they're asking for and what is it that you think you would want if you were a listener of your own show, and get creative. So to be honest, Mary, it also is, we're changing it up all the time.
Yeah.
So when I say this, I'm probably going to listen to it back in like a year from now and think, LOL, that's not what we do anymore. So
that's okay.
And that's okay. But, so I would say get creative. It doesn't have to be an income. It does not have just to chase your dream. If you love taking pictures of people, you can do that on the side. You can do that while your kid naps. You can do that in whatever way it looks like for you to be able to do your dream. But I would also say, like, to get other people involved. I think had I had someone else look at and help us with our finances from the beginning, I think this would look differently where we are now. But because we just did it from the start on our own, just completely out of ignorance, like I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't ask someone to help me with that. So if you know someone or have someone in your life that's super wise with money, I would just pay them for their time and sit down with them and ask them some questions that you don't know the answers to, and just eat as much wisdom from them as you can about money, and ask them to keep you accountable, because it can get, real weird with money real fast, especially when it's around your calling in ministry, and just starts like getting kind of fuzzy when you feel like it should be black and white. So to have that third party as a voice would be really helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's great advice, and really helpful in terms of like not letting this be the thing that prevents you from stepping out. And I mean, in
Yes.
some situations, it might for a season prevent you from stepping out, but
Yeah.
that might just buy you more time to be, like you said, be creative, talk to somebody who could be a resource for you in this area if, finances aren't your strong area.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's helpful.
I mean, like I even had a full-time job here in Birmingham while doing the podcast, and when the podcast was not bringing in anything. And so I don't know. I think that thanks to social media, we're able to almost see everyone's failures and successes on display. And so when someone else is like, oh, like, look at the money that I made, or, I'm driving this fancy car, it's easy for us to put the equation together in our head that like, okay, she started a podcast and she, has this grocery delivery service, therefore she is successful. I'm like, no. Like there are so many other avenues that are reaching my bank account than this podcast. And that has to be okay with me. And we weren't promised from the beginning, like in obedience, we were not promised that this would financially be fruitful. That's not why I stepped into Behind the Bliss. It's not why I said yes. And if it is, I would have burnt out in the first 4 months because it was, I was putting more money into it than I was even seeing come out. So it can't be your motivation. I would just tell someone that, and it's going to be okay if you're doing it for free. And then also you have to think about all the things you've received for free, whether it's advice or counsel or friendship that, someone else is spending time investing in you. So hopefully you're now overflowing where you can invest in others, whether it has a dollar sign on it or not.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you for going into that.
Yeah, I had
helpful.
to. Yeah. I got to preach to myself too.
Totally.
I'm doing we're calculating our books on Friday and it always makes me sweat. So
yeah,
I'll have to listen back.
Yeah. Well, and this may kind of flow right from that, but is there anything that you wished you had done differently at the beginning?
Yeah. We did a good job of this, but I think I wish I would have done it more intentionally. But I wish we would have maybe like created more systems. And it sounds really logistical coming from all the spiritual talk we've had. But I think that if we came up with more systems from the beginning, like recording videos of how you do things, coming up with a procedure, like, okay, to create an episode every week, it takes steps 1 through 12, and this is who does what step, and all of that, I think would have been really easy when we went through a transition about 6 months ago where my best friend that I was doing this with, she decided like, I bless you to do this on your own. I don't feel called to this. And it was not drama. It was very like fun friendship conversation, but it was just one of those, this is taking a turn for an amazing, really cool full-time, like business. And we had to have a friendship talk. Like if this is for you or not for you, I need to kind of know at this point. So from August is really when it got implemented. Until now, we've been operating just as me as the host rather than having someone else. And so having procedures already been completed and written and recorded before she left really helped us, but I wish we had even done it sooner. So I have some people that are helping me with just some administration and logistic things. I think it would have been easier having that earlier. So you almost are training up someone so that if something worst case scenario were to happen, it's an easy transition and you don't have to spend your energy training or writing systems or rewriting systems when you should be focusing on the one thing you can't freelance, which is your time with the Lord or your time in prayer over your dream or your goal. And so just being diligent in systems logistically will set you up to spiritually be free, and have the room and, kind of just the slack and your rope to be able to do the things that you need to do as the spearhead for whatever dream this is.
That's great. Love it. You also mentioned to me something about forming like a board of some sort. Love to hear more about that.
So, like I said earlier, I have a lot of dreams. And so to be able to form a board of people that are maybe even like your top givers to whatever you're doing that are a part of it, that are sitting on the backhand from not behind the scenes, but from the platform be like, hey, I would love to invite you into this group of people, and we're going to meet once every 2 weeks, and I want to hear what you're saying, what you're liking, what you're not liking, to best friends that just want to support you, who can meet with you every 2 weeks and be like, how are you doing? Is this working? Is it not working? Is it time to stop or pause or charge harder? I think just having a board of people from different areas of your dream are so important, because then you're able to have outside voices when, if you're like me, you have such a strong inner critic or inner encourager that I just get so high and so low so fast that I need other people to kind of say, hold up. Before you do fill in the blank, do we have this? Do we have a plan? So just, I think having a board of people that are invested either financially or spiritually, emotionally with you into your dream is so important. It could be your mom, your spouse, a BFF, a stranger. I think just having those people is going to do so much for whatever dream you have.
I love it. Thank you. That's great.
I'm kind of putting together one now. And I say that because that's the one thing I wish I would have started with.
Sure.
So on my board would be my husband, because he signs up for this when I sign myself up for this. It would be the friend that I had that we were once doing this together because she understands it from the beginning. It would be a friend that I have that is amazing at processes. And I've met with her personally just to go through brain dump and word vomit. What's going on? And help me, let's put this on a timeline or, an event diagram. She's so organized. So her, and then I would probably have my mom, because she's always joked. She's like, I'm your momager. I'm like, okay, whatever.
That's awesome.
You can be my momager. So she kind of is able to see outside, because she does not live here with us. We talk frequently, so she has enough inside scoop, but she also has some obviously relational investment and interest in me. And so she's able to say, I love you and I've known you from the beginning, and I just don't see this being a thing for Rachel, respectfully. So those would be my people. It doesn't have to be 10. It could be 2, but I think just having outside voices is important.
Absolutely. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, switching gears a little bit, you mentioned merch, and I know you wanted to give away something too.
Which means merchandise. If people are like, what is merch? I said that one time to someone. I was like, oh yeah, we're working on some merch. And they're like, yeah,
what's
cool.
this new word?
And then later I was like, it's merchandise. And they're like, oh, it's so cool. I'm like, yeah, sorry. So if you didn't know, it's merchandise.
Awesome. So what you got? What do you want to give away to the Devoted Dreamers, or one of the Devoted Dreamers?
Yeah. So we, like I said earlier, have those tees that we created for our live events that we hosted back in the summer and then the fall. And they're really cute, so soft. I sleep in mine. T-shirts that say "Met in My Mess," and the whole kind of heartbeat behind the bliss would be that you feel met in your mess, and that you would know that everyone's got gunk in their microwave. Like everyone at one time in their life has skipped breakfast, to more serious messes. Like we hope to have people on our show that have been through some kind of, abusive relationship or sexual bondage, or maybe to moms that are really dealing with postpartum depression. But we just want you to know that you're met there, but that mess is not meant to stay in, and that Jesus can free us and rescue us. Like Psalm 91 says, when we call upon his name, he'll answer us. So I love these shirts, and kind of like we talked about earlier, it's like my physical representation of whenever I feel completely messy, completely ill-equipped, or not enough, I throw on that t-shirt, and it's kind of my declaration to myself. Like, no, I'm met where I am, and there's a destination for me, but it's okay for me, to recognize my mess and just my humanity, and know that there's sanctification ahead of me. But for right now, I'm comforted where I am, and that's who we have in Jesus, as a comforter. So let's give away one of those shirts.
Awesome. Okay. So what I'm going to do, and the listeners kind of know the drill, but this will go live on a Wednesday, and we'll run the giveaway on Instagram on my account at MerrittJO. And on Sunday, after the episode goes live, we will draw a winner. And so you just have to tag 2 friends and follow me. And where do you want them to follow you? At Rachel
Yeah.
Awtrey?
Let's do Rachel Awtrey. Yeah.
Yeah. On Insta. Okay.
Rachel.Awtrey.
Don't forget the dot.
There's another Rachel Awtrey that I hope to meet one day that has Rachel Awtrey.
Oh, shoot.
I know. I didn't know there were more of us.
I know, right? What are the chances? Anyway, thank you so much for offering that. And one lucky winner is going to get that reminder that she is met in her mess. I love it.
Yes, me too. I'm excited for her.
Mm-hmm. Well, this has been such a sweet time to get to connect with you and hear about your dream and learn more about your podcast. And is there any place else that you want people to come find you or anything else you want to share along those lines? I'm sure you have a website.
Yeah, I have a website for Rachel Awtrey things where I share anything goodness from recipes to fun home decor finds to I am all about a good deal. So you can find all of those fun things at rachelawtrey.com or on Instagram at rachel.awtrey. But if you are a podcast girl like Merritt and I, then you can find me at Behind the Bliss Podcast on Instagram or behindtheblisspodcast.com and any different podcasting platform that you're used to listening to.
Sweet. Well, Rachel, will you just kind of in summary of all that we've just talked about and all that the Lord has brought you through, just share kind of looking back at where you were before you began to pursue the dream and where you are now. How would you say the Lord has changed you in this process of saying yes to him?
He has changed me by introducing me to more, where I know that, I have great things that have been promised to me. And it is really up to me and up to you friends that are listening of where we are in that journey, kind of like in Deuteronomy where Moses was leading people through the wilderness. They were there for 40 days, but their journey was really only supposed to take, 40 years. They're there for 40 years, but the journey was only supposed to take 11 days. And so where we've been promised a land of milk and honey, and you might find yourself in the wilderness, we have an opportunity to want and crave that more that we've been promised in milk and honey in this promised land. So I have just grown in like craving that what the Lord has promised me based on the testimonies and experiences and stories of others, but also things that I've personally gone through. So I'm able to do that and declare it online. And that has been just the most fun, but I have learned so much about the more that he has for me.
If fear of the unknown is your greatest roadblock, this was the episode for you. You're going to find the show notes over at merrittonsa.com/podcast/142. And there I will link to all the things Rachel Awtrey and Behind the Bliss. So go check it out. And then either there or in the show notes in your app, be sure to subscribe to my dream letter. The next edition will be popping into your inbox next week instead of an episode on February 26th. So if you're listening to this in real time, be sure to share that. I also offer like a little box on my Insta stories right before that drops. So feel free to drop your email there as well. I would love to make sure that you get that. So if you've never heard of Behind the Bliss or Rachel, add this one to your podcast list and go check it out, especially if you're in her area, because you never know when she might have another one of those events she talked about. And I think my big takeaway from this conversation is that we have no idea what the Lord has planned for us. He gives us the dream. He points us to the path, maybe even to the next step. Our job is to take it, to trust him, and to, like she said, do what only you can do in terms of investing your time with him and praying over your dream and your decisions, and then leave the rest to him. It's not always easy. Trusting can look like reminding yourself of truth and making the decision over and over and over again to believe that he's got good in mind for you and for your dream. We all want to make an impact, right? I mean, what are those dreams about anyway? Well, here's a quick way to do that right now for someone who needs what you just heard. Will you take a screenshot of this episode, tag me at MerrittJO, and share it in your Instagram stories so that together we can get this encouraging message into the earbuds of the women who are ready to fight back fear, trust their identity in Christ, and unleash the dreams He's given them for their lives. It's so simple to do, and they will thank you for your recommendation. Then, before you go, if you were encouraged by today's episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review of the show over on iTunes so other dreamers just like you can find the podcast. Until next time, I would love to connect with you over on Instagram or in the Devoted Dreamers Insiders group on Facebook, where you'll find a community of like-minded women who love Jesus and are in the midst of pursuing the dream He's placed on their hearts. Thank you so much for joining me today, and wherever you are with your God-shaped dreams, may you have the courage to take one step toward their realization today.